Oracle says that China's internet is designed more like an intranet, not an internet. So it's apparently completely different from the way that the internet operates everywhere else in the world. This is coming via ZDNet. The structure of the Chinese internet is unlike any other country, being similar to a gigantic intranet, like a corporation might have, an internal network, according to research published by Oracle last week. So there are very few connection points to the global internet. And almost everything you're doing is a one-to-one happening within the local, going from China to China. It's not bouncing off some server somewhere else. Instead, you've got these handful of pipelines connecting the Chinese internet to the rest of the world, but almost everything domestic stays domestic, unlike a lot of other countries. So they've actually got a cool little, I guess you could call it an infograph if you scroll down, maybe even to the next one down there. Willie do right there, which showcases some different countries and sort of how their internet is mapped and how it reaches out to other places. So they cite an example here of if you might be looking up something that's in your local town. The example they give is you're looking for something within a small Italian town, a local restaurant, let's say. And then your connection, in order to feed back the information you're looking for, might travel to France, Germany. It bounces around before getting back to you with the thing that's happening locally. In China, if you were looking on China's internet for a restaurant in China, guess where that information is going to stay?
China. In
China. Now, you might be wondering, why would you engineer something like this? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. You got the Great Wall. Is that what they got? The Great Firewall is what they call it. Right, the Great Firewall, so that they can kind of control the internet to a greater degree. Now, there's two ways to look at this. So there's the way of which is like, well, people aren't getting access to stuff they may want to get access to. Yeah, but through this control, you're able to block certain things and stop people, like Google, for example. There's no Google, something like that. But then on the flip side, from a security perspective, there is no potential for penetration from potential attacks from the outside. This thing is fortified. They got so much control over it that they're less susceptible. Now, the other thing to mention is all the equipment within the network is also domestic. There's no foreign. You know how there's all this beef over Huawei having access to the American market on the telco side from like the towers and whatnot? In their network, it's all domestic. It's all their own independent telcos. Now, of course, it's a totally different political system over there. And so this is an easier thing to implement in a political system like that. But on this graph here, you can see how the different countries rate in terms of how direct or how controlled or how domestic their connectivity with the internet happens to be. Now, the other thing that is being suggested via this article is that if you wanted to shut off the outside internet but still have an effectively working domestic internet, you would run it like this, right? If 100% of searches in China ping in China, just hit something in China, you could turn off the outside internet and still have people have a functional internet domestically, whereas you couldn't do that anywhere else. Or anywhere else that has this distributed situation. So if Italy wanted to shut off France or not deny access to some nation, let's say, because they thought it was a threat, a bunch of stuff would cease to function correctly. But the intranet model over here, the payment systems, all the things that rely on connectivity domestically could operate just fine, and it could cut the tube completely.
Self-contained.
Self-contained. So obviously, if you were trying to design a machine in which you would have ultimate control, this is how it would be designed.
Yeah.
So there's two ways to look at it, just like a lot of things in this life, two ways to look at it, right? Control is good from a security perspective, right? It's fortified. But then also, too much control can be perceived as a bad thing because, hey, what you trying to sell me? What you trying to do here? Huh? I don't have access? Why? What are you trying to hide me? What are you trying to hide from me?
Bit sneaky.
It's two ways to look at it. But anyway, this particular article, it seems like Oracle's kind of impressed because obviously they're a software firm, and they're like, this is pretty. They're like, this is pretty impressive the way this went down because it's exclusive to China, and it's actually just a very sophisticated thing to try to approach. It's tough to do, and it's worthwhile for them. They've executed that thing.